The ACN podcast is made possible thanks to the generosity of our listeners and sponsors, including the Agile Alliance. As a nonprofit membership organization, the Agile Alliance is an excellent resource to help you along your Agile journey. To learn more about the Agile Alliance and our other sponsors, as well as how you can become a sponsor or supporter of our show, please visit acnpodcast.org for more information. And thank you for your support. Good morning and good evening, everyone. This is the Agile Coaching Network. The Agile Coaching Network is brought to you by, as most of you know by now, by Agile Alliance. The Agile Alliance is a nonprofit organization, member-supported. Go up to agilealliance.org. Give it a look and see what they've got up there. I know that we just posted in this, time of remote working, just put up a whole bunch of articles associated to how do we work remotely. If this is your first time on the call, one thing to note is that this is a community of people coming together. I've heard feedbacks that we've had on previous different podcasts that we've done on this, and people said, let the experts speak. And in reality that's not this type of call. What this call is for, it's a set of people coming together at a big virtual round table or a park bench, and we are contributing what we know, as well as we want you to contribute what you know. If you're new to Agile and you think that, my input is not that good because I'm just new to all of this and I don't think that my input is not valuable, reality is it is, because you give us a unique perspective that for those of us who've been doing Agile for 10 plus years now, you're at that other end of the spectrum. And so your input on your experience and what you're going through is perfectly valid. Let's have fun. Let's amplify the learnings that we are all sharing with one another. So these are, to say interesting times, I think would be a wrong statement. I think that these are difficult times for a number of people. And as you know, as an Agile community, simple fact of that face-to-face communications, the connections that we do, being close and in a particular space together is the most effective communication to convey things. And that's not just from verbally, but it's also how we convey, with body language and everything else associated to, as a coach, I can go look and see that there's like two people that might be a little bit uncomfortable that I might need to have a conversation with. But as you know, this has all been postponed. And that postponement has a large impact on a lot of people. To give you an example, this is my daughter. She's not an Agilist. Her husband actually is. He's actually works as a software engineer. But my daughter is a music therapist. And so she works with senior citizens, and she gets face-to-face with them, and she uses music as a way of stimulating the brain. And so most of her hands-on work that she does is in person, and it's with people. She also teaches piano to a bunch of students as well. She's also in a jazz band, and she does a lot of face-to-face stuff. Well, her life just uprooted and changed drastically as we here in Portland, Oregon, locked down the city and basically said that all of these types of events, and of course, going in and going from one senior center to another senior center is something that, is really not possible at this point because of the vulnerability of senior citizens. And so we kind of scratched our heads a little bit, and this is not a picture of her setup, but a picture of another music teacher setup. But what we did is outfitted her with a webcam and set up her studio in a particular way where she now can do remote work and remote lessons. And so what I want to kind of open up as our conversation starter for today is I wanted to ask the question, specifically since we can't do face-to-face conversations anymore, how are you helping Agile teams when the face-to-face is not possible? And also, adding one other dimension to this, how are you taking care of yourself through this? Either one of those questions or anything around that topic, I would really like to hear your perspectives on that. Hendrik, did you want to kick us off and take a stab at this?
Happy to do that. Yeah, now these are really challenging times for all of us. And in the company I work for, we are, of course, also now everybody's working from home. We are luckily, you could say, in the software industry. So we have the technology and our IT systems can cope with all the remote work that we are doing now. but it comes with a lot of challenges because all the, for example, agile rituals, the scrum rituals, the workshops, everything has to be done remote. And now we are, of course, scratching our head and we are thinking, how can we help people to cope with this situation? So I'm at the moment head of an agile chapter for a larger organization. And in this chapter, we have, for example, now created a remote working and collaboration guideline, which spans a huge range. One thing is like, how do you take care of yourself? Like your second question is one of the things there. So what can you do? Because now all of a sudden your work environment and your private environment, they are in the same place. So that for many of the people we heard the last 2 weeks, it's blurring between private life and work life. And so we put together a number of recommendations, simple recommendations, what you can do about that to make really a brain switch between now I'm working and now I'm private. So for example, we recommend everybody, sounds stupid, to just shut down their laptop in the evening when they stop working and putting it into a bag. And just this act is like your drive home after work. You shut down your brain and you say, okay, now I'm private. And in the morning, you boot up again. So recommendations like this, we have figured out that many people are having problems with taking breaks. So all of a sudden you're in back-to-back meetings all day long. You don't have the micro breaks anymore. Yeah, so what to do about that? So you need to plan your breaks into your day. And then these practical things like where in the past in face-to-face meetings, we were more facilitating meetings. Now we need to moderate much stronger, because when you're in a face-to-face meeting, you can turn your body and your head towards a person, look at that person, and that person will know, okay, now I can talk, or encouraging people to talk this way. And now you're looking into a camera, or you don't even have a camera. And that means you need to name people one by one and say, okay, what are you saying about this? You need to ask clarifying questions and all this kind of stuff. So we have put together a guideline that's with all sorts of recommendations what you can do to help the people. And we got a lot of good feedback. And this, of course, is an agile guideline in the sense that we are continuously working on this. So we're getting back from the organization a lot of ideas how we can improve this further, and with tips and hints. And we are iterating this now. Every week there's a new version of this guideline.
That's awesome. Is this something that's public, or is this just something as an internal document that you guys have?
At the moment, it's an internal document because we are focusing on the tool set and the IT setup of our company. In principle, I don't have a problem to share a lot of the non-specific stuff with the community. No problem to do that.
Yeah, that would be great. I think anything that you can share there would be awesome. Linda, what do you have?
I'm fortunate right now in that my client is still wanting to engage coaches. I work as a full-time coach, and normally I'm working in San Antonio. My home's in Maryland. I've been home for a couple of weeks now and expect I'll be here for several more. And some of the challenges we've had have been, same along the org that Henrik talked about. But one of the ones that we noticed was a little bit different is that all those little hallway conversations that we used to have as coaches together showed up missing in a matter of a week. It was like, oh my gosh, we haven't had these little touch points and the ability to chat. So was before we never had a formal touch point, we ended up instituting an early morning touch point to make sure that we did have that opportunity, just check in with each other, see if there was anything that we needed to partner on and things of that nature. And we've been doing that for a little over a week. That's been very helpful. Aside from that, the other things I got going on right now are trying to figure out how we're going to do our PI planning event. Normally it's, there's actually 3 different arts involved. So we typically have them all together. And our challenge right now is figuring out how do we split them up in such a way that each one will be effective and we have all the right people in each of those sessions to handle the dependencies. So another interesting challenge for us. It's coming along pretty well. Ask me next month how it went, because it'll be done by the 15th of April. So
thank you for that. Shauna, how about yourself?
Yeah, so definitely interesting. We had a project kickoff last week at our company with about 20, there was almost 25 people online. And one of the activities that we do is, we do story mapping. So we'll take, usually if we're in a room together, we'll take the envision flow that design has done, we'll print it up, and then we'll also do the sequence diagrams that tech is working on, and we'll put all that on the wall. And we'll get the team to post-it note where they want to, where the work is. And that's obviously difficult remotely. So we used a Jamboard, and we had a Google Jamboard, and we had the whole team, all 22 people, get logged onto the Jamboard, and we posted the flow up, one page on each Jamboard, and we had the entire team using virtual sticky notes to get all of the stories written. And it took a little bit longer than I think a normal project kickoff would take, but we were able to get through it, and we felt really good about it. But it took a lot. We had one coach moderating the conversation, one coach sort of facilitating, and one coach making sure that the Jamboard was organized. And so it was much heavier of a lift, but I think if you can split up the roles, it made it easier. So yeah, it's been interesting experimentation. Personally, I'm sort of in between moving from one job to the next. So I'm trying to figure out how to onboard remotely, and it's going to be interesting. But one of the things that I do get to do, sort of what Henrik mentioned, is starting fresh, being able to determine my own schedule, and being able to really make sure that I schedule those breaks. And so I've been thinking a lot about that, because similarly, I've had a hard time shutting down during the day.
Right. Shutting down is always difficult. I mean, for those of us who have been working remotely for a number of years, one of the things that I know that I'm guilty of this, and Hendrik, you mentioned, closing the laptop. Well, I've got this big desktop system that's sitting down in front of me right now, and those desktop systems, as you know, they're not, turning it off and walking away from it sometimes is a little bit difficult to do. It looks like Jorg, you're here. Do you have anything to add to this?
Not much to add. Hello, everybody, by the way. Just one thing, I always try to, again, do the examples myself as behavior in meetings, and being actively offline by letting people know that this is okay to take a break, and that they should as well. One thing I do in meetings, Henrik mentioned, calling out everybody. I distribute this to the team. We just say who's next if we have a round or interested in questions. So that's easy way for me to lean back and get self-organization running. Because one thing that I'm trying to prepare of is that the team can continue while I'm not there. I might get hit personally, so they should be as able to work as possible.
You make me sad when you said that. No, you're not going to get hit. You're going to stay healthy and keep a good distance from people.
The good thing is the philosophy comes from, if I enable them to do this, I can move on to the next fun job. That's why I'm doing this in the first place.
I need you to stay healthy. Jonathan, what do you have?
Yeah, so I think my experience is the same as everyone that's been mentioning. The biggest part is making sure the team is staying disciplined to follow the practices and processes that they had agreed upon when we were all face to face. I'm finding that to be a little bit more difficult doing it remotely, because I do understand that most of them have kids. So not only are they trying to work from home, but they're also trying to, teach from home or teach kids at home. So one of the biggest things that we end up having to do is recreate our team charter so that we can determine what better ways, while people who have kids or people who have other ones that they have to take care of while they're at home, how can we be able to make sure that we still interact, still follow the principles and values, and deliver the software that we're looking to deliver.
And when you said redrafting your team charter itself, was that something you sat down, did remotely with your crew? What was the main change that came out of that?
It was the time we committed to working together. Basically, before when we were in the office, it was anywhere between 8:30 to 4. Now we kind of space it out to anywhere between 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. with large break times in between. That allows some people to kind of spend more time with their family, kind of sit down, take a little bit longer lunch breaks. It created more time spans where we know that we can interact and communicate better with the team. And then there's this periods of time where we know that, okay, the team is going to be kind of quiet because they're dealing with family or dealing with something offline.
Right. Well, thank you. Thank you for that, for those inputs. Catherine.
Thanks so much for bringing up this conversation. This is great. I find that our team is spending a lot more time identifying effective tools to support teleworking. We already had some teleworking going on, so for most of the team members, this was a move from teleworking once a week to teleworking every day of the week. So it was not that big a deal for most of them. I was the one who was coming into the office every day, so it was the biggest change for me, and it hasn't been that big a deal. We do find a lot that we're spending a lot more time trying to get on the same tool with other parts of the organization I work in. We've been using Slack, and we're being told that we need to move over to Microsoft Teams. And so I'm going through and having to digest how that's going to work. As far as taking care of myself, I'm trying really hard to have a single space where I do the work, and that concept that was brought up earlier, it's like, do your best to put the work away at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. I find myself spending a lot more time trying to infuse more humor and giggles into the situation, because it is really grim. And yet that doesn't mean that we shouldn't have something to be happy about. And it is something that I look forward to from my teammates, and we're all very welcoming of a reason to have something to be giggling over.
That's
I find
awesome.
myself using the talents that I have with connecting people together in facilitation to outside of the office as a way of kind of giving myself something to be happy with. So tonight I have a conference call with a group of 6 friends who we find it difficult to get together at the best of times. Well, all the evening events are canceled anyway. Everyone's stuck at home. So I'm like, how about we have a conference call? Mm-hmm. And they were thrilled to have a reason to get together with people that they really liked and be able to talk. So we may be doing this going into the future.
Those are awesome ideas. Yeah. We had our dogs in the house, and other people have dogs, and we were at a virtual kind of session together, and then all of a sudden dogs started to show up, and I can tell you that makes people smile when part of your life crashes in a little bit to your meetings.
I have a question for the group. Sure. When we get to the point where we're open to taking on new questions. The organization where I work, everyone covers the camera or has the camera turned off. And I think we're going to be isolated long enough. I'd like to understand what I can do to encourage people to turn on the video, turn on the cameras, so we can see the facial reactions during meetings.
It's interesting. As we go through the conversation, if others want to go put that on, just to let you know the reason why our cameras are off right now for this particular webinar, it has to do with bandwidth. And we've had, when we do the audio recording for this, we end up having that problem. But when we get into the after hours section, but cool, thank you. Let's see, Sheila.
So I've worked with teams that have not been in the same location before. So this is not 100% new. And one of the things that I've been doing, I have a blog that I wrote about effective use on Slack, because when you don't have that, being able to get up and go walk over to somebody's desk or to say, hey, can you meet me in the huddle room? You need a way to have that instantaneous communication and back and forth. So, but it's important to set it up in specific ways that makes it more effective. So I've been sharing that out to help other teams and other people that may be having that difficulty. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is working with some new ways to use Zoom for different types of meetings. And I'm currently the co-lead for Women in Agile New York City. And I am going to be experimenting with doing an open space, a virtual open space on
That's
Tuesday.
awesome.
So we'll see how that goes. And I'm going to take a lot of notes and probably publish on my website, some tips and tricks and pitfalls to
If I
have.
might ask, what platform are you using for that?
We're going to be using Zoom because it has the breakout rooms, but there are some things that aren't as flexible as I'd like, but I've kind of come up with ways to work it. So hopefully it goes well. I haven't been able to find somebody who's run an open space like that.
I've not used Zoom Rooms before, but I have used the Go to Training application, which is, I forget who the company is for that. I think it's the same one who does our Go to Webinar that we use here. But the Go to Training actually has some really cool facilitation features where you can drop into rooms, you can, go in and out as the facilitator on it. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they have like a free evaluation of that. So you might be able to squeeze in like one of those sessions or a couple of those sessions within that free evaluation window.
I'll take a look at it. Thanks.
No problem. And thank you for your tips. I appreciate it.
And how I'm taking care of myself is to get outside at least once a day. I need that fresh air once a day. And if I didn't get outside, I'd be really depressed.
Yes.
Everybody should at least get outside for a few minutes. You don't have to go walking all over town. I just feel like I have to get out there.
Agreed. I think the worst thing that you can do is just stay glued to your chair the entire day. And that's one of the work habits that I learned when I started, virtually working about 4 years ago, is that if you don't get up and move around, it's bad for you. Thank you. Joseph, are you there?
So just a little bit of context. So I come from an office where there's really a strong sense of community and people are used to working on site. So it's been a big culture shock for a lot of people, to not be on site working together, seeing each other sometimes in informal settings. So sort of reiterating what people were talking about a bit, one thing my company's done is sort of created more informal meetings for people to come together, not necessarily talk about work. So an example is, there was a team that would go to a happy hour every Friday and, just a happy hour at a bar, and they would, have their meeting there. They have kept that meeting going, but they kept it virtual. So instead of meeting at the old Chicago bar, they're now virtually meeting, having their drinks online and just sort of chatting in that informal setting. I know that there's also something that's happened is people have just invited, we have a Discord channel that actually most of the gamers in the office use, and they're using that as sort of an open channel now, sort of a place where, there's no agenda, but an informal place where people can drop in and just hear other people's voices, just have other people, as background noise while you're working. So I think, having that informal sense of community, I think is really helpful for a lot of people that are used to having sort of a strong office community here. And I know one thing that was helpful for me is we've had senior leadership sort of host sort of informal meetings as well, where they discuss, coronavirus response and just talk about their understanding for things that, people now have kids that they got to take care of at home, and understanding that there's going to be lower output in the coming days. I think that's been really helpful, at least for, my sense of taking care of myself, going, oh yeah, it's good to know that the organization as a whole, that the leadership and people that are above me are understanding that it's going to be a little bit harder to get as much productivity out. So I think anyone that's in a leadership position, it's good to show that level of vulnerability right now.
And was that something that, if you look at your company culture pre having to work at home, was it always that understanding, or is it just something that they've now woken up to and said, you know what, we can't set unreasonable expectations at this point?
So I think there was always sort of an understanding, but there was a little bit less, like the messaging wasn't with as much vulnerability. A lot of times you get these sort of scripted calls, I feel like, from senior leadership where they're putting a lot of stuff into a very small time frame, and you get almost like the talking points on work-life balance. But we're seeing a lot more these meetings where there's longer pauses, and people are talking about how they're going outside and walking their dogs for social benefits, to be able just to feel more like life is normal. So just hearing that kind of stuff, it helps out with people that you're used to mostly hearing about and interacting with in a very professional setting. So I think it has expanded a little bit, to answer your question.
Actually, that might be one of the benefits of this. The culture gets stronger because people see that there's actually a full person coming to work. It isn't just the individual who delivers code to me, that they have family, they have all these other things going on. So that's really good. Thank you, Joe. Richard, are you there?
With this change, much like Joe there, our company culture was definitely very vibrant and rich, all being co-located. And now that we're being separated, having to leverage some new tools. So as a Scrum Master facilitating on a couple of teams, I've had to look at some planning poker tools that are free online and started sharing those with my teams, as well as like virtual retrospective tools. And the team members seem to, depending on the tool, they seem to like that new and different ways to do the same sort of functions. And so that's been helpful so far, that people are excited to try these new things, do the same thing they used to do before, but just sort of virtually.
That's cool. So could you give us a couple of the names of the virtual tools that you're using?
Sure. So like yesterday I did a grooming session with the team using the Planning Poker, going to planningpoker.com, and there you can have the team members bring up the stories and they can put down their score, their cards face down until everyone puts down a card, and then you can either, as a facilitator, flip the cards over virtually, or just, when the last person has done it. And it seemed to work pretty well. So I think I'll use that from my other teams. And then the retrospective tool, that also worked out pretty well. That was called Retro Tool, go to retrotool.com. That seemed to work well as additionally.
Okay. Well, cool. Thank you for sharing those. Typically, we don't do like shameless promotions, but I think sharing the tools and other things that people are using, I think, is vital at this point. Thank you, Richard. Ashwini.
How am I helping my agile team? So fortunately or unfortunately, I have co-located teams, and now we are all separated and have to work virtually. So I changed some of my facilitation techniques. I also leveraged some of the tools available for the Scrum events. On the day one, when we have to start working virtually, my team and I started adjusting our ground rules, talk through how we want to make our changes for this virtual kind of working, and based on that we started changing the way we run our events, or facilitate some of those events. My team, since it's co-located, we go out for lunches, for happy hours, so we are missing that social interaction. And most of the Scrum events, we only talk about work. So we miss that face-to-face, informal interactions with team members. So I started setting up virtual coffee, 15 minutes every day. Get your coffee and start talking about everything other than work, or what you did after work the previous day, or have a virtual lunch where you show people your working space, your pets, your kids, your significant other, or your coworkers. So that was something that people started really enjoying. We also have virtual happy hours to get connected and talk to different team members. And at this time, which is very challenging, where we have a lot of team members with their kids going through homeschooling, so being accommodative, understanding their situation, and making sure that they're able to balance both work life is another key thing as Scrum Masters and leaders we had to look into. So I'm talking to those team members to make sure that they don't hesitate asking for a different time for the meeting, or telling that they cannot attend certain meetings because of certain conditions, which is fine. So making those accommodation and letting team members know that these are some reservations and we have to be accommodative is another thing. And my company is also hosting some self-care sessions, where when you're working for a longer time, sitting in the same space, some of the exercises you can do sitting at your home office, and some of the things that you can do to take care of yourself and stay healthy during this time. So those are some of the sessions my team and I are attending to keep ourselves healthy during this time. From my personal self-care perspective, I'm trying to keep positive, hope this situation will get over soon, trying to do some yoga to keep my fitness, take some walks frequently around my community and also in my backyard. And we also, like make sure that, as many of you mentioned, start at the same time, like how you check into the office, and end the day the way you walk out of your office, and make sure that you get that balance between work life. I'm also a founding member of Women in Agile Cleveland, and we are planning towards having those virtual sessions so we can make the community feel the same, even though we are all working virtually. So that those are some of the things that I'm trying to occupy myself and make sure that things are getting fine and I stay positive.
Awesome. Those are all great examples. If people are normally listeners to the Agile Coaching Network, we typically, somewhere around 20 minutes, we pivot off to a set of questions that are up on Slido. With the number of hands that are up, I'm just going to go ahead and continue to just have people share their experience on how they're helping their teams when they can't be face-to-face, and also how people are taking care of it themselves as well. So I'm going to keep this open through the remainder. As long as people's hands go up, I'm going to continue to keep this going. Emma, are you there?
So our company's pretty well set up to work virtually, and we already do it a fair amount already, because we've got people all over the country. We use Google Hangouts quite a lot for things. We work in Scrum, so we use Trello for our sprint boards. One of the things that we've done to try and kind of take care of each other is we've created a new Scrum board, which we've called Keep Calm and Have Some Fun. And at the end of the day, every day we have a stand-up, and it's basically an opportunity for people to kind of talk about something fun that they've done in the last day or so, just to kind of talk about something other than work. And it's there's a whole range of different things that people have kind of brought up in that, and we've used our Trello board, so people have put pictures on there. So, for example, some people have helped their son print out a Star Wars helmet with their 3D printer, or there's people who have kind of gone surfing in the evening, or gone for a run, or gone for a walk, and they've posted pictures and things. It's just quite a nice way to have that instead of having that face-to-face chat with people about non-work stuff, it's doing it, but it's doing it in a little bit of a structured way. So it gives everybody a chance to kind of pitch in and talk about non-work fun stuff that they've been doing to try and keep kind of sane during this somewhat crazy time. Another thing that we've also been talking about a little bit is just different ideas to keep ourselves entertained on all of the long telecons and things that we have. So one of them was dress up for work day. So quite easy especially with that. And I was kind of chuckling to myself when we were talking about having people not having their cameras on, because it's always the same people that don't want to have their cameras on. And it's obviously very easy to be sat about in your pajamas trying to do some work when you're working from home. So we thought, well, what about if we have different themes? So we could do black tie one day where everyone has to dress up in black tie, or fancy dress or something like that, just to try and add a bit of fun to everything.
That's awesome.
Yes. So we've got our Keep Calm and Have Some Fun Trello board, which is keeping us entertained. So that's kind of how we're trying to take care of each other.
Very good. I mean, we actually, on our Slack channel, we have something that just says serendipity, and you can post any cool thing that might be going on at home, or something that you find fascinating, or you just want to share with the rest of the crew. And there's some cool stuff that gets posted up into that area. And by the way, I want a Star Wars helmet as well. So where do I put my order in?
The other thing as well, actually, is last night we had a pub quiz where we all sort of dialed in, and we had one person reading out the questions. Everybody sat at home with a beer. Yeah, it was good fun. It's something that we would have like gone to the pub to do otherwise, but we're trying to do all this stuff online now. It's good fun.
Right. That is cool. And I posted a meme not too long ago. There was a quarantini, which is it's a martini. It's the same martini that you would normally get in a bar, but it was you drink it alone. Anyway, this is Sean. Are you there?
Hi Ray. How are you?
Doing well, sir.
Excellent. It's really good to be here. I've been on for a little while, unfortunately, but a couple of things. A lot of the things we've already done has already been mentioned, so I won't go over that. But we did do a Kahoot quiz the other day, which was absolutely fantastic, and that has become a ritual now for our Fridays. So our Scrum of Scrums becomes a quiz, so that's nice and good. and it keeps everybody kind of really happy.
What's an example of that?
So the Kahoot quiz is just an online forum, basically, where you can either use the templates that are there, and basically we just share the link out to everybody, and then they can use their mobile phones whilst we're using Teams or Zoom or wherever we want to choose to use. And so it's a very interactive session. We can see each other, and but also we can. It brings that kind of competitive edge and fun element to it as well once you're doing a competition. So that's been really, really good, and I'd recommend anybody. It's free to use Kahoot for your teams, and it's great if you're all working remotely as we are at the moment. One of the things, major things that's happened for us at the moment, and it's been a big change, is the executive board, and I'm coaching at that level at the moment. And one of the biggest changes I've seen with them at the moment, they've reduced the level of kind of risk, I suppose, they have on working remotely. And they've even got their own kind of Trello boards up now, something that was completely alien to them. And now they're all working collaboratively, and they're actually working as a Scrum team themselves. We did start to initiate some of that a little while ago, but now it's really, this has been a moment in time that's actually now driven those behaviors where they start to act like a Scrum team as well, but using all the good stuff that our Scrum teams use on a day-to-day basis. So if anything, that's been really good, and the feedback we've had from them at the moment has been absolutely amazing. So they're seeing collaboration like they've never seen before at the moment, and they're moving things very quickly. So that's been a huge positive. On a personal level, I honestly thought when this all kicked off, I was going to be for the job, being a coach. I didn't think that it would land very well with them. Well, how can you coach remotely? And it was reassuring, really, because they said to me on the day that we were all sent home, we need you more than ever. And that was just an amazing, mature organizational approach to how they value coaches as well. So for me, I'm very grateful to the company. And so it puts me in a good place at the moment. We can try new things. And so I'm really enjoying it.
That is awesome. I'm pleased to hear that your company is not doing crazy stuff and deciding that they don't need you at all, which would be crazy at this time. Ron, are you there?
So yeah, several things have already been mentioned that I jotted down earlier. I was going to mention one of the things we want to make sure our coaches stayed connected, and as we've used a variety of different platforms and tools and stuff, our company's kind of leaning towards, and so we adopted the Microsoft Teams approach, because we can run the chat lines. We can have, it's actually been a lot more stable than WebEx for video conferencing, for daily connections. And then also it helped us as we started converting our training workshops. We used to have a lot of interactive training workshops that we developed using the training from the back of the room concepts. We wanted to convert those to, even before this situation came up, we wanted to start converting those and making them available for remote people. So we kind of accelerated that, and we actually used a combination of Microsoft Teams and OneNote to facilitate a test-driven development introduction for people who are non-technical, to get them to understand the concepts. And we could create a main session and then breakout rooms. But the thing is, when you work with people that are not familiar with these tools like Microsoft Teams, you have to spend some upfront time kind of walking them through or hand-holding them how to use the tools so that it works a little bit smoother. And we're still kind of learning the capabilities of what these tools can do ourselves. So we're kind of learning it together, but we're going to try it with some additional workshops that we had before, and converting those and experimenting with people to see how well that goes. Mm-hmm. Also, we've been seeing a lot of teams for their retrospectives kind of pivoting from just a traditional retrospective theme to, let's just talk about how everybody is coping with the situation today. And a lot of people that are typically quiet in retros are now opening up and telling you things that people they had worked with all year or for a couple years had no idea what was going on in their life. It kind of brought the team closer and helped them make more connections with each other that ironically, when they were face to face, wasn't happening.
That is awesome. One clarification when you mentioned training from the back of the room, are you referring to Sharon Bowman's work?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. How to structure the training. Instead of just death by PowerPoint, we actually designed it in a way so that we would, connect with the people, deliver the content, make sure they get it, and then close it before you move on to the next concept.
Cool. Yeah. So if anyone wants to go up and look at Sharon Bowman's stuff, that's there's some really good facilitation techniques that are up there. Thank you for all of that, Ron. Sure. Toby, are you there?
Hello, everybody. So how am I helping Agile teams when face-to-face is not possible? So my organization, I work for a company called Ventera. We have taken a lot of positive and proactive steps. So quite a few of us were working from home, but now, it was disruptive change, everybody working from home. So there was a lot of upfront communication from the leadership. I lead the Agile practice, so definitely encouraged all the Scrum Masters to start using, more online tools. I actually put together a small article while talking to them, so that really helped as well. Some of the things that I already mentioned, like Good News Friday, we start our stand-up meetings on Fridays with great things that happened that week. We put together a pet owners channel where people are posting pictures of their pets. We're encouraging everybody to be on video. All these things already mentioned. In addition, I think what we are also doing is that we realize that a lot of our team members live by themselves. So several Scrum Masters, rotate and call these people and have one-on-one chats with them, because it can really, for such a long period of time, staying indoors totally segregated from everybody can become depressing. So we're trying to do some of those things. Also virtual happy hours. We had a Hawaiian shirt Friday last week. Today was wear your fancy hat. So everybody, when they come to the stand-ups, they're all wearing their fancy hats. So some cool ideas just to keep, the juices flowing and encouraging each other. We also, asked everybody to relook at their working agreements now that everybody's working from home. We also made rules, no scheduling meetings between 12 and 1, which should be always anyway, but a lot of people are taking care of their kids and they have to take, a little extra time to make sure that, kids are fed and all that good stuff. So yeah, it's just being a little, a lot more empathetic, being a lot more transparent, and a lot more understanding that people may have varied schedules that people are doing. How am I taking care of myself? I'm definitely blocking time for myself. I'm trying to participate in all of these work-related activities, but also connecting with friends and calling them, making sure that I'm getting adequate sleep. It's like others have said, it's difficult to kind of disconnect yourself from work. So and I didn't have a home office, so I've set up a place. I kind of get dressed up, and then after work is over, I change back into normal clothes. So that way I know it's kind of segregated. So yeah, just chugging along and encouraging everybody to be positive.
I don't know. I suddenly got this image in my head of Mr. Rogers when he comes in and puts on his sweater and, puts on his sneakers. And I'm going to always relate that to you now. Which is awesome. Let's see. Jeff, are you there? You've been waiting for a little bit.
So 2 things to contribute for the what I'm doing to help face-to-face interaction. It was touched on a couple of times. That is enabling video during the stand-ups. This was something that didn't go over great in the beginning. So, video chat doesn't paint the most flattering picture of you. You got to kind of look at yourself, which is, when you're not used to it, is a little uncomfortable. You have kids in the background, that was mentioned before. Maybe the workspace is a little messy. For those who don't do video chat as a normal practice, I'll tell you, we did make it mandatory for stand-ups, and I think we're about 3 weeks in, and people have become a lot more comfortable with it. And they're starting to do things like, dressing up in funny ways, or maybe this one woman, I didn't know. She has like a hat collection and wears a different hat in each of the stand-ups, which, doesn't sound like much, but when the world seems to be on fire, these little things really paint a human picture of people. And, I've worked at this company for maybe 10 years, and having a peer, an eye into someone's life with the kids and stuff like that has made us a lot more comfortable with each other, where that wasn't the case, before. So I would highly, highly recommend introducing video chat in some small piece. The stand-ups are 15 minutes, so we're not asking anybody to sit on, a video for an hour. But that is something I would highly recommend, and there's been a lot of benefit by doing that.
Awesome. Those are really good tips. And yeah, I do agree with that. I mean, it takes a little bit to get used to the video. I find that the one thing, and I don't have the setup in my office to show people right at this point. I'm going to rehook it up. But at one point, I put a teleprompter up, which is, these teleprompters that you can buy, then your camera sits behind it. And the screen basically is when you're looking at the person and through the teleprompter, it looks like you're looking at them, that whole eye contact. Because webcams, the way they position, depending on your setup, sometimes looks like you're looking up at the roof or other things, which sometimes is a little bit hard. But thank you for that. Maria.
Hey, thank you for bringing the community together as always, but it's even more precious now.
Oh, thank you. We're a good group of people, and I love doing this thing monthly.
Yeah, so ton of wonderful tips already. I would like to add a couple of things that worked for me personally as an Agile coach. Number one, as soon as everybody went to working remotely, I established additional coaching hours. We call them coaching hours or Maria's office hours. And so in addition to being able to, as always, have coaching appointments one-on-one, people now have a time slot where they can just drop in with any issues they're experiencing. So whenever it's, hey, how do I keep my team motivated? Those people used to be really ambitious and motivated, but now they have 5 children sitting on top of them. So it's different. How do I help them? So whatever the issue of the day is. And then the second thing, and one of the most important things we can do, I think, as Agilists and as coaches, encourage the leaders you coach to model not just strength and positivity, but also being vulnerable. It is very important to strike a balance right now. If all the leader is doing is projecting strength and optimism, the team members are not going to be comfortable to share their vulnerabilities either. So if you can encourage the leaders you coach to be able to say, yeah, I also struggle with taking care of my kids and doing my job right now. And yeah, sometimes I feel sad because there is a lot of uncertainty and I don't know what the future is going to look like the way I used to. That can really, really help. When you model this, the team members open up as well and say things like, oh, I didn't know it's okay to share this, but yeah, I'm totally struggling. Thank you for sharing that.
And I think of leaders, then again, this is one of the, I'm looking at the bright side of what we're going through, is if they can project out that during a crisis, they should be doing that normally during just normal working hours when we're back to normal as well. Because I've seen certain leaders, I had one that I worked for a number of years, and he was retiring and he got up on stage and he tells these great stories about his vulnerability in life. And my comment to him was, I didn't know you were human before this moment. It's the humanity is something that's incredibly important. We are approaching the top of the hour and we still have a ton of hands that are up, and I apologize that we're not going to be able to get to all of these. Typically right at this particular point, I'd say, hey, my next event that I'm going to be at is going to be X. And guess what? I have no clue where that next event is going to be. Actually, there's a couple of virtual ones that'll be coming up now instead of the in-person ones. So I'll be attending a couple of ones. They'll be going up on my schedule fairly soon. Those are all kind of in the works. So we're going to have more virtual events for people so that you guys can feel connected to what we typically do. So Deliver Agile, as you know, has been pushed out, and a number of the other different events that we've had, like XP as well, pushed out as well. So we're going to be making sure that we keep the community together. And a part of that, if you guys go up to the Agile Alliance where the Agile Coaching Network page is, you will notice a new box that's there. It's join the ACN Slack channel, which basically went live a couple of days ago. So if you go up there right now and you go, hey, I want to keep this conversation going, this is how you get the invite. So just go up there, put your email in, and then you'll get an invite from the Slack system that will let you get all set up and start talking more, because it's a great space to continue the conversations that we are doing here. I'd like to thank everyone. Thank the regulars. You guys are always great. I just can't do this without all of you, and then everyone else. And I hope you guys have a great month.
This podcast is provided by Agile Alliance for educational and informative purposes only. To find out more information about the member-supported Agile Alliance, please go to agilealliance.org to find out about more upcoming events, as well as different programs that are available to help you with your Agile journey.